Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Here on Tuesdays, we do like to respond to questions or comments we're getting either on Instagram, YouTube, or from our wonderful Patreon community. So if you have a question that you would like handled in a future video, let us know in the comments or reach out to us in some way. Come on, we enjoy doing these things every week. Now, today is a question that I have been looking to answer for quite a while, and it has to do with Old Forester picks. Now, back 5 years ago, Old Forester picks were 90 proof, and it was a really big deal when they came out as barrel picks. But when they came out as barrel picks, some of the reactions were actually kind of mixed. And it seems like Old Forester took that feedback and brought back a lower proof pick at 100 proof, upping it from the 90 proof that it was before. Now, I just got my hands on a 100 proof bottle. So now I get to do a comparison between barrel proof and 100 proof and start to understand even myself if I have a preference. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Shout out to the Mash and Journey Club for enabling me to do this comparison here in probably one of the most fair ways I think I can do it. Because while I'm not comparing the same single barrel, yet there will be some trickery at the end of this video, but while I'm not comparing the exact same barrel at two different proofs, what I am comparing is a recent 100 proof Old Forester single barrel to a Old Forester barrel strength that was picked essentially by the same pick team, or at least many of the same pallets that I trust. And I know both of these from a flavor perspective are bangers. So when I do this comparison, I'm going to focus more on the experience and just each step of the way, what I'm feeling, what I prefer, because I know from a flavor perspective, I love them both. Now, I've gotten to spend some time with the 100 proof over the last week. I have actually not tried the barrel strength in quite a while. So this will be a fresh perspective on the barrel strength, but it does give me a comparison point there between these two. And I think compared to any other way I could do that, that was probably the most fair, unless you know of a scenario where they split a barrel and did half of it at barrel strength and half of it 100 proof. I'd be curious if they did. That'd be pretty cool. Now, one other thing I did, if you check out a recent live, it's going to have OH on the thumbnail. It's going to be the OH edition of Whiskey Wednesday. We had the Turks over at Drifting Drams create that blind flight battle. And in the spirit of Halloween, there were some tricks and some treats. And what Ethan and Katie did is they took a batch of Elijah Craig barrel proof and proofed it at different proof points from 94 to 100 to 115. And then the barrel proof entry was 125. And then that was the blind. Crazy blind. We navigated it very well on everything except age, but it was one heck of a good time, which also inspired me to create a sample of the barrel strength and proof it down to 100 myself. Now, I used a calculator to do that. I'll talk about those tools and processes at the end of this, but I'm sure it was very, very precise. All right, let's get into this particular comparison first, the 100 proof versus the barrel strength. Now, I'm debating what order to do this. I should probably start at low proof and work my way up, but I'm actually thinking I start at the high proof, work my way down, and really put the 100 proof on its heels by putting it at a disadvantage. Let me know if you disagree with that decision. I'm going to make that game time decision right now. We're going to start with the barrel strength. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining this far. Oh, man. Chew. A lot of chocolate banana, bit of a banana sundae on that thing. Now, from a proof perspective, this one is 131 proof. So, wow, you can tell that right off the nose. There's a little bit of a sharpness, a little bit of ethanol. It's hot. And I'm not one to call things hot very often, but I will say the Old Forester barrel strength is hot. And this is probably one of the more refined picks that I've had. All right, let's go in for a sip. Mm. Up front, really, really bright. And as it transitions to mid palate, there is a sharpness there as well. It's almost like listening to music that is maybe a little too loud for the speakers that you are trying to push it through, but the music itself is still good. Just every once in a while, it hits some type of note or a high point or a pitch where it's like, whoo, just makes you shudder a little bit. Finish, nice, long, lovely, oily. All right, let's get a little rinse out here. Go to the 100 proof. See if it travels like a different road here or if it's now muted because I started with the barrel strength. Cheers, everybody. Off the nose, gosh, I wonder if that's due to the comparison here. Reminds me a whole lot more of Jack Daniels. Um, a lot of the 100 proofs that they come out with, particularly with the distillery series. Man, I wasn't expecting that to launch into my head. That would probably trick the heck out of me blind. It's dark though. There's actually a bit more oak presence on this one. So I do wonder if there's any differences maybe in the age stats or anything like that. But having it watered down is allowing some oak to come through, which I don't recall usually on Old Forester barrel strengths. Let's get into the taste. Mm. Strangely, might be a characteristic of this particular barrel. The mouthfeel at 100 proof actually feels creamier and is more pleasant than at barrel strength. And it actually transitioned to a more pronounced and defined finish at the end. Hmm. Let me go back in for another rip, talk about the front and the mid and that journey there. But I was actually very surprised about that mouthfeel and the finish. Hmm. Even proof down, those flavors are really coming through. Very, very Jack Daniels like. That's the most Jack Daniels like Old Forester I think I've ever had. So lots of banana nut bread almost mid palate there. Dark though, that oak part keeps coming through. So a little bit of chocolate drizzle on top of that banana nut bread. And that just continues and continues on the finish. Great finish on that one. Actually, I think the 100 proof lasted longer than the barrel strength. I'm going to go back into the barrel strength here. Yeah, barrel strength again. Okay, so going back to the barrel strength, what I said off the nose, I mean, the nose is still hot. It's actually harder to get some of the depth of the flavors that I could off of the 100 proof compared to the barrel strength. Um, Again, the best equivalents I can use is just the music equivalents and the volume's up maybe a little too loud, or we're in a room and the lights are a little too bright but not bright enough to make you completely wince. You're still all right but just a little uncomfortable. Ooh, all right, let's get in for a taste. Mm. Definitely a huge difference in mouthfeel, actually. Concentrating particularly on the mouthfeel of the Old Forester barrel strength actually comes across almost like a gritty syrup. Um, and it's got some density to it, whereas the 100 proof is oily, but it's also like some air has been whipped up into that oil, so it has some lightness to it even though it is oily. and it travels down this path as it coats everything. So it's almost the difference between a syrup and an oil, I guess. That would make sense, at least from a texture standpoint. Hmm. One more sip on the barrel strength. Other thing that sticks out could be a barrel thing. There are a lot of baking spices on the barrel strength that I wasn't getting the 100 proof. Once again, could be the profile of the two single barrels. I don't want to turn this into a flavor thing versus an experience thing. But the baking spices that I feel travel through from the front to mid all the way to the finish. All right. Going back to the 100 proof here. Mhm. An airy, oily mouthfeel compared to a syrupy mouthfeel. Otherwise, both of them bring the flavor. And the 100 proof is a lot more accessible and inviting. I bet you a lot more people would actually prefer the 100 proof. On this particular battle, I prefer the 100 proof as well. I'm still getting the finish on this thing. So it's actually exciting in the sense that they proofed it down to 100, but it's keeping so many of these lovely characteristics in terms of the mouthfeel and in terms of the finish, even though it was proofed down. On this particular battle amongst these single barrels, I will take the 100 proof. I'm leaning in that camp. It doesn't burn you out. It doesn't have the volume up a little too high in places. It's not as spiky, and it still delivers on the flavor and the finish. So that's its important milestone. And I put it at a disadvantage drinking the barrel strength first. So it probably holds up even better if I was drinking it solo. But the fact that I did this and put it at a disadvantage gives me even more confidence. Now, in the spirit of the blind I was talking about earlier, I did proof down. So I went on to Google and found a calculator. I essentially typed in how much water do I need to add to a 1 ounce sample to proof it down, calculator. I don't know. I used really imprecise words and it gave me exactly the website that I needed. But what I have here then is I'm going to say Jack Daniels because it keeps reminding me of Jack Daniels flavor. The Old Forester, but it's the barrel strength proof down to 100. So if you were to take your own bottle of barrel strength and proof it down yourself, would it retain the qualities that I was just calling out on the 100 proof? Let's find out. Cheers, everybody. You know what? It is interesting on the nose. So this is the barrel strength, to be clear. Um, on the nose, proof down, I am getting more oak presence even on the barrel strength that I wasn't getting at the 130 proof. Once again, the volume and the brightness was turned up so high that you really don't get those dark notes. Getting it here though. All right, let's go in for a taste. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, that's interesting too. The finish went flat. But the whole baking spice thing that I was talking about earlier on the barrel strength, that got retained in this 100 proof. So that's clearly a barrel characteristic versus anything to do with the proof and getting proofed out. All right, one more sip, but the finish did feel diminished on the one that I proofed down myself. What's interesting too, it did retain some of that syrupy mouthfeel that I was talking about as well. So once again, maybe a characteristic of that single barrel versus it being an aspect of it being proof down. Gosh darn. Look at even the proof down one. I mean, just so rich and oily, even for being proof down to 100. I mean, that's what I kind of noticed on all these glasses. They all got destroyed. Honestly, the barrel proof one ended up almost looking the most thin compared to what the proof down ones did. I mean, the oils really came out on these. Man, if it would have retained the finish, the mid palate flavors are really, really good on this proof down barrel strength, but the finish got diminished. If it would have held there, I would have even said maybe even proofing down your own bottle might be worth it. Something to experiment with, though. If you got an Old Forester barrel strength, go to the calculator that I was talking about here, do Google things and find it. And do this yourself and compare it to even the same barrel. The flavor profile definitely remain the same in so many aspects. Um, but it does get more accessible and seemingly oilier versus being syrupy. See if you come to the same conclusions. So, if you have any other comparisons or questions that you would be interested in, let us know in the comments, and we'll do some type of experiment like this and work through it together. So, thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. We'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.